my 10-year goals is like that.
I think you're really on track, but the thing is, like, if I can give you personal advice, don't wait 10 years. Just start now with your foundation and it will run in 10 years. Or maybe you will have a passion for something else. And I think that will still be very good and very nice for your life. Thank you very much for your presentation. Please feel free to remain on here on the channel, because we have a lot of interesting speakers following. The next one actually is already here, I'm quite sure. Yes, Adrian Neamtu, I think we took some moments from you. I think we're still on track. Please feel free to just introduce yourself and just try to show your passion to the teenagers around here. Thank you very much and welcome. Your stage is yours.
Hello, everybody. I thought you can hear me well and bit. So, hello, everybody, and thank you for being here today. So, I trust this Wisdom weekend was great so far, and I will do my best to add quite a lot into it. So, since this webinar is this is a webinar and not how I used to follow up last year live in Davos, basically, I can imagine some of the people are watching it on a smartphone, are attending it by a smartphone. Just for a moment, imagine a world without a smartphone. It's hard to imagine, to be honest. So we use the smartphone in order to communicate, to play, to listen to music, to enjoy, but also to acquire knowledge. And here we are with the keywords for today: knowledge and wisdom. So let's start to dive into it and to see basically how we can transform knowledge into wisdom and how it gets accelerated. So the other day I was looking to my kids, watching my kids staring around their smartphone, and I say, hey, leave it aside for the moment. But then all of a sudden the reply came back pretty swift, saying, oh, Dad, but we are acquiring knowledge. Okay, so, but the fact that I heard Lady Gaga in the background made me a little bit suspicious. And but the next argument came from my 12-year daughter, saying, but look at the guys in New York back then in the 70s. What they are doing? They are all staring to their newspapers. And indeed, the newspapers was basically thousands of people walking around with the newspapers. And then also for the same reason, but a different medium, acquiring knowledge. So me, I was born in the 70s back then. So I'm something between a smartphone and a newspaper, working now for 20 years in financial services business and managing different type of risk. For today, however, I have prepared 3 stories for you that hopefully illustrate the best how to transform knowledge into wisdom. And first of all is about my bike. Second, about connection and about disruptions. And third one is about the sailing boat and experience that I have on a sailing boat. So let's stick the first one first, with my bike. I want to make sure that I try to figure out the difference between knowledge and wisdom. So when I was a little child, I loved to ride my bike. And I saw then back then, the postman also rode his bike in order to deliver the mail. So I thought, okay, when I will be grown up, I will be a postman in order to ride my bike. So see, we all have plans every day and for everything. And you and me, basically, as we speak, have a plan for being here today. So yesterday we had a plan for being here today. So what has this bike story is something common between knowledge and wisdom. So because knowledge is really a fact, is something associated with something like riding a bike. I know how to ride a bike. However, wisdom is a little bit up, a level up, shall we say, is putting knowledge to work, understanding how to ride the bike, enjoying it, riding in on rocks, on different surfaces. And now just imagine for a moment, really a passionate biker like me, and an engineer who knows how to assemble a bike pretty good. And due to the fact that he didn't have a trauma when he was a child, he didn't have a chance for riding a bike till then. So you see, we're very different in every respect. The engineer has quite a lot, deep knowledge about the bike, every other piece of the bike, about the aerodynamics, about physics, how they fit together, and so on, about Tour de France. Me, however, passionate riding a bike, I do know how to ride different surfaces, if it's wet, if it's rocky, and so on. But still, if you got to an exam, for example, and someone will ask you, who knows better the way how to ride a bike, safer from Davos to Zurich, what will the answer? So there are two different perspectives here. That's why I want to think about that. Taking the knowledge perspective, you definitely have to say the engineer know how to ride the best. However, considering wisdom, I could think rather about me. So to see, there's a difference between wisdom and knowledge. Knowledge is to get accelerated and it's transferred to wisdom. So I don't want to underestimate the deep knowledge, of course, and wisdom is something that is built on knowledge. It's complementary, it's a level up. What I want to make the point here is basically give it a try, ride the bike, of course, put it into context. And the second story I want to envisage here is about disruptions and about connections. So still mentioning this smartphone. Smartphone is not smart because it has a piece of hardware, a piece of software, but because of its connection between different smartphones. So it's much like humans. Things are more and more connected, they get to a network. So similar apply to knowledge. If the most of this knowledge gets combined, gets intelligently combined, it gets to wisdom. So if you are a network of knowledge, capitalize on that and go for it. And this is how really we bridge the past crisis and also current crisis that we are somehow all engaged. All crises really have similar patterns. They come all of a sudden, they do not have any pre-advice, and create disruptions which basically generate both opportunities and risks. For some of them, creating winners and losers. So what I want to get here, the message is be prepared for the next uncertain event by knowledge, by wisdom. So because most great things in life won't happen by chance, but by active choice. So basically, an active choice is both knowledge and wisdom. And to finish up, the third story is about sailing. You see, I mentioned my bike and my desire to ride my bike. Now, in the last years, I experienced another desire to discover another passion to go sailing. Now, of course, at this age and working in financial services for a while now, I cannot think about becoming a fisherman in order to sail every day. But last year, I thought giving my family an ultimate holiday experience. So we gathered the most possible information about the sailing, about the sea, getting equipped, getting the sailing permit, and all the preparation. So we rented a sailing boat and set the sail. Wonderful sea, beaches, blue waters, the perfect holiday. So everything went fine one day, exactly when the storm came. So the second day, a pretty heavy storm came, has basically changed everything overnight. So everything what we know for this, half of the crew got seasick, so that's why we urgently had to come back to the shore. So, well, what you see in that is that we all learn differently. So knowledge sometimes must come from a school of hard knocks, really, but not trying it. So this is not trying is not an opinion for me. What about for you? So in the end, I think we only regret choices that we haven't taken. So there is a saying goes, if I can recall it correctly, that if you want to do something you never had, you need to do something you've never done. So especially when you're young, I have to stress that you have less to lose, and then give yourself a chance for screw it up. So this is the screwing up thing, unless it's something material. Basically, consider it really like the entry card for growing, really. And finally, rounding up, really reiterating again the difference between knowledge and wisdom. So we're spending quite a lot of time over consuming information. We're constantly acquiring knowledge. So you go to school for acquiring knowledge. You look at a smartphone for acquiring knowledge. Then reading books, obviously, is acquiring knowledge. By every mean, every moment, you seek knowledge. And then this knowledge gets you smarter. But knowledge alone is not all. We need to transform this knowledge to bring it in context and create wisdom. So if knowledge really is a bunch of stuff that you know, wisdom is one level up. It's basically implementing that to a practical application. So I consider it really knowledge like being something comfortable, because what is easier? Really reading a book about fitness, or just go there, wake up 1 hour earlier and start sweating. So you see, like all the above, once I wanted to acquire knowledge, being new at job, and I asked my boss, who was an experienced guy and a very well-known guy, about the permission to go to listen to a seminar. And he looked at me pretty puzzled and say, "Oh, Adrian, but life is the best seminar." And to be honest, the course of the year, I see it differently, that not knowledge isolated, it's much of a value, but to put it in the context, to apply it properly, to transform it into wisdom. So in the end, to the last minute that I have, I just encourage you to be bold, be courageous, be wise, and really change the narrative. So how about you? What do you think? How do you do it? Let's talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Adrian. So maybe Giordano is just smiling. I think you have prepared a question. Go ahead, Giordano.
Adrian, your talk was very structured. Congratulations.
Thanks.
I actually don't have any question yet. If anyone wants to make it, I will be thinking.
So, well, actually, I have a question. No, the thing is, you mentioned, Adrian, like you have the first step is the knowledge, and the second step is the wisdom. And you get knowledge at school by reading books, by listening to talks, by doing this and that. So you mean that the teenagers, which really are maybe not so knowledgeable, they really first have to sit down and study a lot? Is that really your message you want to give, to pass them over? Or maybe it's a bit more complicated?
Message, they can study, of course, and studying is in order to be wise and get this wisdom accelerated, you have to have a fundament of knowledge. Okay. And knowledge, I mentioned that you learn it pretty much everywhere. But more important, my message is really put it into context, uniting the different dots, like the example with a smartphone. So smartphone is really only a piece of hardware and a little bit of software, exaggerated, of course. But connecting all these things together is basically what drives you, what gets you further. Like innovation, for example. If you have different type of innovations, strategies, and one of it that I can recall in this context is basically putting one thing to the other. So taking one feature of one industry and applying it to the other, really uniting the dots. And this is basically leveraging the knowledge of one industry by another. Gets you wiser. So to your question is,
yeah, actually, the thing is actually you really have to have the first to get the second, maybe, but you have to accomplish the first in order to get the second. So that means, I give you the example with the bicycle. You know, you say you need some knowledge about bicycles. That means you have to read first 25 books about bicycle before you step on a bicycle and make the experience and connect the bicycle with all the other things. And I think that's not really what you want to say, because if you look at how kids learn to ride a bicycle, it's not the way it works, and they still acquire not only knowledge, but also wisdom about the bicycle once they hit their heads twice on the pavement, or maybe also like that. So I think it was just the one before of the other approach. I think it doesn't fit for all the wisdom you want to get. So for others, for some more, of course, if you want to have some wisdom in particle physics and you don't know what particles are, you cannot have wisdom there. So, but yeah, depends. I think, yeah, I think you understand what I mean, and I think it's your sense of breaking a bit up this structure first and then second. But I don't know. Maybe you don't agree with me.
No, I agree with you, and it's always depending on the context, and it's always depending on the topic as such. And my message was really go there, ride the bike. So despite not analyzing, not like the engineer that had his trauma, not having to ride the bike, having excellent knowledge about all the physics, about the components of the bike, but really go there, ride the bike. So this was the message, the first one, go there, ride the bike, in every aspect that you can think of.
Thank you. Any other question? Maybe Giordano now, or still free of questions?
It's a very dense topic, very lot of knowledge in your speak. I'm still thinking.
Adrian, thanks for coming, Marcel. Yeah, I think maybe we can shift into your professional career, and if you could share a little bit more what it is like to work for a big bank, because you've been with them for almost 2 decades now. So you must have such a wide spanning perspective in terms of getting into a banking career, how it evolved, and what are the opportunities for teenagers in banking today?
Mm-hmm. So how it evolves, to be honest, there was one massive disruption in my life. Having lived when I was at your age, 17, 18, then the Berlin Wall fall, so the fall of the Iron Curtain back then in Romania, in the heart of Transylvania. And then I wanted to become a doctor. But you see, disruption happened overnight without any pre-advice, as I mentioned. And all of a sudden, I found the entire economics very interesting, since it was a new world. So that's how I shift really from becoming a doctor, which I studied quite a lot for that, for becoming working in finance. And then I united certain dots throughout the lifetime and the career, and it happened that I joined a big company which basically had a strong financial services arm. And then when it was a financial crisis about 10 years ago, when quite a lot of banks shut down throughout the world, we have set up a bank which is called the Siemens Bank. And since then, I'm working different, I'm managing different type of risk within this organization, from operational, credit, now liquidity, interest, and foreign exchange. And to your question, it's basically, we are somehow in an environment of, we've been for the first years, an environment that was a startup, but within a regulated entity for a big company whose basically roots are 170 years ago. And that was really amazing somehow. Now for the question is whether I can advise young people going banking. This is very interesting and very at the heart of the system job, put it like this. Only that you have to bear in mind also, I'm looking to all this, this system is transforming due to decentralized financing, the new technology, which are really transforming the entire industry. So yes, it's nice, yes, go for it, but watch out which direction this might change, because now you are really preparing yourself for jobs that does not exist yet.
And how do you advise us for preparing for jobs that don't exist yet?
Yes, this is something indeed that I also think quite often to myself, and what to do with my kids, because we are preparing them for jobs that do not exist. So basically, put it in one sentence, be bold and walk through life with open-minded. That's a very general, shall we say, explanation and the general answer, but walk through life with open eyes means almost everything. So watch out what's separate between what is important really, what is different, and take the opportunities, take also the risk, engage a certain extent to some risk in order to capitalize on that.
Perfect. Thank you, Adrian.
Are there any other questions from the teenager, from the side of the teenagers, or Marcelo, anything you would like to know as well, or some more questions from your side or directions else? Actually, at the moment, we had prepared, or the teenager has prepared some breakout session with games, so feel free to stay longer to play the games, or thank you very much for your presentation. And I'm sure you gave some very important advices for teenagers in order not just to stop with knowledge. That means just not just to study hard to acquire the knowledge, but go further. Just really try to interconnect, to interchange, try to live the things, and try to achieve wisdom all along the way. And I think it's not a good advice for teenagers. I think it's still a good advice for us as well. Even if we acquired some knowledge, it's still a wide step, and I think it's a long way. And I think for us, it's also plenty of opportunity to acquire knowledge as well.
Yes, and if my add up one sentence, basically which one finance professor in London taught me, shall we say, 20 years ago, that if you don't take the risk, then a competitor will take the risk. So go there and take it.
Thank you very much for your presentation.